Okay, so Rabbi, so this next session is predicated on the general skepticism that we saw 5 years ago in 2016. We were in Yeshiva Spring Valley. Those of you who were there, we had a panel with charity. And the concept of these online campaigns was a new thing. And basically, everyone was skeptical. It's not going to last. It's a fad. It's not really going to work. And we had the entire charity staff, they were pretty much the only one in the space at the time, was there. And there was a lot of back and forth conversations. And I think it's fair to say that everyone for sure walked in saying that it's not possible, it's going to continue. And at the end of the session, some walked out saying that it will continue. Many walked out saying it's not going to continue, and everyone else wasn't sure. And that was 2016. And we're here 5 years later, and I think everyone's gotten to the point where we all recognize these campaigns are here to stay. They're not something that are going away so fast. Whether Corona kind of solidified it, whether it wasn't Corona, we can debate it. It's not important. I believe every single Ma'aseh either did one or is thinking about doing one. And the ones that are thinking about doing one, on Sunday they say no, on Monday they say yeah, on Tuesday back and forth until they decide to do it or to not do it yet. I should do it for a capital campaign, I should do it for operations. And what we've put together over here, and this, I really need to give a tremendous shout out to Yitzchak Kraus. I don't know if Yitzchak's here or not. There he is. Oh, shkoyach. Yitzchak really navigated this. This was, we have, yes, there are two different vendors on stage. There's RayzeIt, there's Cause Match, and the concept behind it was one where we said that everyone is in this space. And even if you may not be the lead fundraiser in your Ma'aseh, it affects the entire staff of the Ma'aseh. To do a successful campaign does not happen without the entire Ma'aseh being engaged. Maybe getting them engaged is a trick, but you have to get them all engaged. And what we would like to do in the next little bit is to, again, these are unrehearsed, but again, two unrehearsed conversations between RayzeIt and a potential customer, Cause Match and a potential customer. And what that means is, we have to my right is Rabbi Leo Rukowski and Rabbi Shmuel Kamenetsky, who are both in Maestis. I'm going to let them do a quick intro for themselves, which Maestis they're with, and their roles. But they are exploring the concept of the campaign. One is exploring it, should I do it, should I not do it? One is going to be exploring a little differently, I did it, but maybe I can do it better. And that they're going to be each interviewing. On my left side is Yaakov Cohn, who we all know, who does coaching for Cause Match. And Yossi Greenwald, who is with RayzeIt. And basically, Yossi is going to start off with a conversation with Shmuel on my right side, who is they're going to be discussing, should I be doing this campaign or not? And we're going to get started here. Shmuel, can you just share with the crowd which Ma'aseh you're with? What do you do?
Thank you so much, Rabbi Stern. My name is Shmuel Kamenetsky. I work with Yeshiva South Shore, who we heard before from Rabbi Kramer, is run by my father, Rabbi Mordechai Kamenetsky. And it's definitely very hard to work alongside my father because he's Kanai Nahara, extremely talented and extremely successful at running a Ma'aseh. So the little bit that I added in is to come in and work with the younger parents and the younger generation and the newer parents and come up with some new ideas. I'm there for 3 years. I actually have run about 1.5 online campaigns, and and they were very matzliach. Since then, I've also worked with other meisters, shuls, yeshivas, chesed organizations from out of Yeshiva South Shore on consulting and helping them, guide them through on various platforms. Not specifically any platform, but just the guiding them through the process and helping them along. Okay, so I'm thinking about doing an online campaign. My yeshiva, I'm gonna come from a perspective of a yeshiva, even though there are other meisters also, I understand, besides for boys' elementary schools. So I'm thinking about doing this campaign. I've made dinners, I've made everything. I need $1 million in the bank in 2 months. What, if you could tell me, Yossi, just what do I need to know? Where do I go? Where do I start? What do I need to know?
Okay, I just want to chime in for 1 second. Our focus here is on the campaign. It's not on how RayzeIt does it versus how Cause Match does it, their fees. That's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss the actual concept behind the campaign. You have different strategies that are employed, different goals, different objectives. And again, the question here is posed to RayzeIt. I need to do this. I need the money. Help me.
Yeah. Okay.
So, to answer your question, I think that the first thing that organizations need to know, and a lot of times it's organizations come to me that almost with this question in a different format, that I've never run a campaign. I'm scared to jump into a campaign. I don't know what it entails. And my first response is that while the practical application of an online campaign, of a crowdfunding campaign, is a different practical application from the common dinner, it's the same science of a common dinner. The common dinner has, in my eyes, has 2 segments of donors. It has your direct relationships, your direct donors that you're going to be targeting, which I'll call your first degree connection of donors. And then it has your honorees. Honorees are people that you bring in order to tap into their networks to bring in transactions for you. When you understand that that's the science behind a dinner, plug that same science into the online campaign, you're going to have your direct donors, which could be your parents, could be people that are passionate about your cause that are going to support you. And number 2 is going to be your honorees, which are going to be your raisers. And the objective is to try to bring in as many parents, alumni, community people that are willing to support your cause to be your raisers, which are your honorees, which the objective is to tap into their network. Obviously, 20 minutes is not enough to go through all of this. The way that I see it is that the main subjects are bringing in your raisers, setting your goal, and should we do matching or not are really the main focal points of the campaign. So I think you can move on to the next question to go into a specific area where you want to focus on.
Okay, so in my yeshiva, I have 400 parents. I have about 20 who are actively involved on the board, not on the board, on various committees. I have another 20 that I don't want to have anything to do with because I'm chasing them for tuition. So that leaves me with about 320 who are very good parents. They pay tuition. They complain if there's a problem. And other than that, I have very little to do with them. They're not wealthy. How in the world do I get these 320 parents to go raise $1,800 for me?
So first is, the first thing you have to know is that when you go ahead and you're asking a parent to do something, you're asking them to do something for you. In any relationship, the more you give to someone, the more you're able to get back from them and ask them in return. If I was talking with someone in the audience before, and he told me that if he knows that if he opens up his text messages and he tries texting a raiser that he wants to get for his campaign, if he sees the last text message that he texted the guy who was last year's campaign, he did something wrong. And that's the most important piece to know. But that's just a zoomed out point that you have to have the relationships. I kind of break it down into 2 important components when you're trying to recruit and bring raisers into a campaign. Number 1 is the mindset of the executive director, the mindset of the yeshiva, how we operate every single day of the year, how the MISIT operates, the mindset. And number 2 is the actual engagement process for the campaign. As far as the mindset is that if an executive director of a yeshiva, not to take away from anything that any of you guys do, But if an executive director of a yeshiva positions himself as, I'm the boss and I'm in charge of everything, I need you guys to go ahead and raise $1,800 for me. And as the boss, I'm telling you that's what you need to do. That's not going to really get you so far. To take it to the opposite extreme is if you view your role as a partnership with the parents in running your organization, you view it really as a partnership. And what I mean by that is that I'll use an example. If you have 5 investors that invested into a real estate property together, there's a manager that's running the property. The boiler blows. If the boiler blows, no one is going to think or dream that that's the manager's financial responsibility. What the manager has to do is he has to go back to the partners of this investment and say, partners, we have a challenge. Here's the challenge. The challenge is the boiler just blew, and it's not my I'll take care of the headache. I'll facilitate the replacement, but it's not my financial headache. It's our financial headache together. We're partners in this. That's number one in the mindset, and that can't just be on the receiving end. It also has to be on the giving end. On the giving end, you have to view your parents as partners in your organization. That I would pitch as in the mindset of the organization in order to maintain the relationships. And as far as the engagement process, there's multiple steps to an engagement process to bring people on board. To go through it quickly, to bring raisers on board, your engagement process is that first your parents that are partners in your organization, they need to understand what's the need. Why do you need money? What do you need these 320 parents to come in? Why is that my responsibility? Because I'm the parent. Then number 3 is once I'm a partner in this, they need to understand who am I? I'm a regular parent. What am I capable of accomplishing? And just to bring out the what I'm capable of accomplishing is, and then after they figure out what they're capable of accomplishing, they have to see what the success is and want to get there. To focus on what your parents are capable of accomplishing, I was just 2 weeks ago by Gad Meir Senzer from Nesiva Zotera finished up a campaign. I was sitting by the campaign completion celebration. Sitting next to a parent, he tells me, yeah, I wasn't one of the big guys. You don't need to sit next to me and schmooze with me. I was like, how much money did you raise? He said, I raised $4,000 from 15 donors. The answer is, and I told him, I said, times 200 parents, that's $800,000 and 3,000 transactions. I said, you were the campaign. And when parents understand that we're partners in this and what I can do and it's my responsibility, that's how you're going to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Baruch Hashem, I have a good relationship with some of the parents. Obviously, I'm changing the story over here.
So the 320.
So Yossi, I went to a parent yesterday and I met with him, schmoozing him all the time, and I said to him, okay, so we're doing this campaign. I need you to raise $5,000 from your friends. And he looks at me and he says, listen, I don't do this stuff. I don't send out links. I think, here's a check for $5,000. Have a nice day. Do I take his check? Do I not take his check? Is this what I'm encouraging parents to do? Maybe if every parent, instead of raising the money, gives me a check, so I'm good to go. It makes my job much easier. What do I tell back to this parent?
First is take the $5,000 check and deposit it that day. But the most important thing is to answer that question. I can't answer that question good or bad or is that the right thing? The answer is that it really depends on the structure of your campaign. Are you doing, in your specific case, where if you're replacing your dinner with this, and this is your dinner where you're expecting a donation from each parent, and besides for that, you also want them to raise, but you're not running a dinner in 6 months where you need a donation from them, then great, you got your money from them. But if your objective today is crowdfunding, you failed because you didn't crowdfund. You got the money from him. That's point number one. Which, to translate that point, is that the campaign is not about putting a big goal on the screen and getting a lot of money on the screen. The campaign it's about generating new money. And generating new money, getting that $5,000 check from him, if it generated new money and you could go back to him again, you generated new money. If that's his donation, I just potted myself up, you can't come back to me, you didn't generate new money, then for all practical purposes, that's not $1 million. You lost $5,000 from that campaign. And that's an important piece to know. the next point that I'm going to say to answer that question is that while you get the $5,000, even if that was your objective to get the $5,000 and you actually made $5,000 new money, let's just say, you talk to any of the organizations that went ahead and did a successful campaign where they had their parents sweat, schwitz, work in order to make this happen, there's debate whether just as or slightly more or less, but just as important as the money that they actually raise, the camaraderie that a campaign can create between parents that actually come together and schwitz. They work together in order to make something happen for an organization that you don't have with someone who just writes a $5,000 check. That you have when someone works it and together, he's in a room together and he sees that we all together put this together and made this happen, and then he feels like this is my effort.
Okay, if I can just chime in here for a second. I want to back up one step about should you do the campaign. Can you talk about that a little bit more, not just how you should do it, but should you even go down the road?
Okay. Back to my original where I was holding that I never did this and I never knew my parents. Okay. So I never did this. I don't know my parents. A little bit to do with them, but that's pretty much it. But I see everyone doing it, everyone being successful. So how would you guide me? Like, how would I be able to gauge if I could be successful? And if I could be successful, what would it take? Is it going to be worth it? Am I going to burn myself out? Am I going to burn out my donors and my parents? Just getting to that point with the learning curve and this new all the new concepts that we're going to be picking up and learning, is it worth it?
So to answer that, there is no one in the world that could come right now and tell you, Reb Shmuel, I know your parents, and I am telling you, you should run a campaign. There is no one in the world that could tell you that, and anyone in the world who tells you that is, without the proper data backing it, is misguiding you. You need to actually go do a hands-on-the-ground feasibility test is almost what I would call it, is what you would need to do in order to go ahead and determine if you're capable of pulling this off. There's different ways that you can go ahead and do that. There's some organizations that will create a parent committee, and they'll create a committee of 10 parents, and they'll walk them behind the scenes, walk them onto their side of the desk, and show them here are the facts that I'm faced in my organization. And instead of telling them we're running the campaign, here are the facts. We have this deficit. We need to put up this building. This is what it's going to cost us. And bring in some parents, say, what do you think that we could do in order to make this happen? And then that's step one. You could either go through a parent committee and then have parent committees meet with other parents, let's say a parent committee by grade, by neighborhood. You could have a parent committee that's going to try to help you with that. Or you could actually roll up your sleeves and meet, whether it's one-on-one or in small groups, with every single one of your parents, every single one, not just the 320, the tops and the bottoms also. Go through every single parent who cares about your organization. And what you want to do with them is walk them through the need, and you don't need to walk into the campaign to the feasibility test advocating your mission of running a campaign. You can walk into it with almost like an inquiry mode. I want to know, here's what we're open-minded, and I want to know, what can we do? And when you do that and you sit down with your parents and you sit down with groups of 5 parents, and obviously you could plant the seed with one of those parents before, and that's going to be in the meeting saying, I think we should run a campaign, I think we should do this. But if you do that feasibility study and you make yourself an internal spreadsheet of parents and say, how much money do you think that you could pull in, and how much money do you think you could pull in, then you'll have a very, very solid idea of where you're holding on. If you could run a campaign, and to me the most important point is you're not wasting on doing this, because you need to run a campaign to raise the money for whatever your project is. So either you're asking for the money straight as solicitations or to be a raiser, so you're not wasting your time on that.
Okay, now, so we did this study, we decided we're going for it. Now here's the problem, that I was meeting with one of my balabatim, and he tells me that he made up between him and his friends that no one's sending links anymore, because otherwise it costs him too much money. He raises $5,000, tells his friends $5,000. Before he knows it, he's $25,000 invested in every meiser in town. However, he did mention to me that if you do something a little different, a little more exciting, a little something, then we could talk. So my question is, really, these campaigns are running every day and every week, and you see them around. If I would ask you just for some idea of how we could stand out, besides doing something outlandish, like a mud race or something. I don't know which Meister did that, but I remember seeing it advertised. But
What's a mud race?
I don't know. But something within the realm of normal, just to do something a little different. Any ideas?
So to answer that question, the first thing that I'm going to say is that number one is the stats don't lie, and the stats show that it's still going strong and stronger than ever. And organizations today are still bringing in more donations per raiser than they've been bringing in the past and raising more money. So the stats show that it's not. I may tell your friend that he should find a new group of friends if they don't want to be part of these things. But ultimately, it's something that the statistics show that the campaigns are working. And the next point is that at the end of the day, that's almost not your headache. Your headache is the relationship with your raiser. That's your headache. Your headache is my relationship with my raiser, bringing him in and getting him to take responsibility for that goal. That's his headache to figure out how to take it to the next level. And again, he's a partner in your operation. He's a partner in making this successful. And he knows that the only way that this campaign is going to work is if he brings in his $2,500 that you're counting on. He has to figure it out. And when you bring in partners like that, he can work it in order to make it happen.
Okay. One last question. Are we holding?
Okay, one.
Okay, a question like this. So I have a parent in my school. He's doing very well, and he likes the yeshiva. We have a very good relationship. I want to ask him for a large gift for this campaign. Now, besides that, he has a big network, and he could raise a lot of money. So I would like to ask him for this campaign a personal gift of $18,000. Besides that, I know he could raise $20,000. So when I approach him, how do I balance these two asks? I don't want to confuse him, and I don't want to I don't want to lose out his gift, and I want to lose out his network. So how would I go about this?
Got it. It looks like the timer's on, so I'm going to try to do this one quick. Your question was that it's illegal to make two asks, and you're not able to go ahead and make two asks. And the way that I would position myself on the answer to that is that figure out how to go ahead and merge that into one ask. And make the one ask, I need you to be my partner in making this campaign happen. And if he comes back and tells you, I think I could raise $10,000, you could turn it back to him and say, can we get you down as an $18,000 partnership for the campaign? And between what you raise and fill in on your own, you'll take
a little off over there. But yeah, okay.
Whichever way it goes. But the point is, can I have you become an $18,000 partner and have you fill it in on your own? And the point is, the answer to the question is that we need to figure out how to merge it into one ask of the partnership as opposed to the two separate asks.
I'm curious if Rabbi Bold agrees with this one ask concept.
I would ask him to match his own.
Then he's not going to raise anything.
It depends how you ask.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next interview with Cause Match and Rabbi Leo Rakowski. Firstly, Yashikayach, we're going to come back to question and answer shortly, and we're not done, so don't run away yet. But Rabbi Leo, can you just share with us which Ma'aseh you're with and what you're here for?
Thank you, Rabbi Leo, first of all, and Rabbi Yitzi and Rabbi Eliezer for giving me the opportunity to consult with Rabbi Yaakov, one of the premier coaches of Cause Match. I'm with Rabbi Nissen Portnoy, the Rosh HaMosid of Beis Yaakov Elementary of Rockland County. It's a girls' elementary school, relatively new. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary and our first 8th grade graduating class. We were very hesitant this past year to do charity campaign, or crowdfunding campaign. We have a very religious parent body. We didn't know how it's going to go as far as the social, the texting, etc. We are very pleasantly surprised how well the campaign did in terms of the matchers and the crowdfunding on both sides. And we were already thinking about the next one and how to take it to the next level. Along those lines, in terms of goal setting, we'll begin with goal setting. We were a little bit in the dark last year. We don't want to undersell and oversell. How would you formulate a goal building on that success of last year?
Okay, so again, his question is, they ran a campaign very hesitantly. They were very pleasantly surprised by the success. before they ran this campaign, they were 100% in the dark what goal to set. And he's asking Yaakov, as a cause match coach, what would he tell him for going into a second campaign, how to set that goal? And just to give you a drop of background here, Yaakov runs TA of Baltimore. That's his job. His job is not, he's a coach for Cause Match, but his day job that he is busy with is he is in the trenches running yeshiva. Yossi Greenwald, as I'm sure he told you already, because he's phenomenal with marketing RayzeIt, and he is RayzeIt. He came up with the concept 5 years ago. I don't know. When he told it to me the first time, I looked at him and said, "Whatever, call me when it's done, because I don't know what you're talking about." And yeah, it's laughable. It's literally laughable, but that was my reaction. And Yaakov in the trenches with TA in Baltimore, and now does coaching on the side with Cause Match very, very successfully. Yaakov, how would you answer Belio?
Okay, thank you. So in general, when we look at goal setting and trying to figure out how much you want to raise for the campaign, the fact that you've done a campaign before is actually very helpful because it's really a data-based conversation. When I coach organizations, we look at the data that exists, we look at last year's campaign, we look at previous campaigns. We kind of get a sense of your donor base, your constituent base, who you're looking to raise money from. We separate it. If it's going to be some kind of matching campaign, we separate it between the matchers and then the crowdfunding part. And we look at who were your matchers. I don't know if it's... This is better from here? All right. Who were your matchers last year? Do you think that you can line up those matchers again? Are there any new matchers that might be available to you to go to this year? What is the... in terms of the levels of giving of those matchers, what do those look like? How does that compare to the crowdfunding? The goal is going to be based on what can I do? What's my baseline as far as matchers are concerned, and what's my baseline? How much do I think I can get from the crowd? The amount you can get from the crowd is very much tied to the amount of ambassadors that you can recruit, because there's pretty much an average donation per ambassador. If you look at campaigns and the statistics of campaigns, really, and you have your own statistics because you've done one of these campaigns. So you know your average gift from last year of how much your average ambassador brought in. If you take those numbers and you run the calculations and you figure out what that average gift is, and then you figure out, okay, how many ambassadors do I think I can recruit this year? Get a crowdfunding number, get your matcher number, then make the calculations as far as, is this a double campaign, a triple campaign, a quadruple campaign? Build into that a potential bonus round, build into that the potential to possibly do a pre-launch, which is something that a lot of campaigns do. This is very, very general, but those would be the factors that I would suggest to be looked at as far as coming up with a goal. And then once you have that number, take that number, stretch it a little bit farther, at least for your internal team, so that you can really, really push and really, if you build it, they will come type of situation. So you set your goal a little bit farther than you think you might want to reach, and then go get it.
Thank you. So I understand you're suggesting, in terms of goal setting, to rely heavily on analytics, statistics, numbers. Full disclosure, as a New York Yankee fan, I don't have great betoch in analytics, but I'm even Yovin. But I can get past that. Getting to the meat and the potatoes of the campaign, which is the ambassadors and the matchers, thinking about going to them again, approaching them again. I don't want to sound like it's not a broken tape recorder yet, but forget about a broken tape recorder. I want to make it more exciting than last year, with a new excitement, a new pitch, and to the ambassadors as well. Not just, could you do it again? Do you have anything to suggest, something to motivate them, an extra pump, an extra twist, a little different twist, that when I approach them, it's not, can you do it again? It's simple.
Sure. Okay, so let's separate the two groups. So in terms of your ambassadors, those are typically the people in your organization that are very close to the organization, your major donors, the people you already have relationships with. If you're doing your work well, you will have followed up with them after last year's campaign. You will have thanked them. You will have told them of the impact of their gift, and repeat that over and over and over again, because that's the donor cycle, right? If a donor gives a gift, then we want to thank them. We want to share with them, what they accomplished with their gift, and then make the ask the following year. So with your matchers, that's really going to be the key. you want to make sure that you are building those relationships. You want to make sure that you're in touch with them like any other campaign. Now, the statistics really show, and this is both from cause match campaigns that I've helped run, but also internally for TA. We just did our 4th campaign. Our matchers have statistically and consistently gone up year after year after year after year. They are very much passionate about the yeshiva because we've, Baruch Hashem, developed those relationships. And they like the idea of these campaigns. They respond positively to these campaigns. And so what we've seen is that it's not hard to go back to the matchers. You gave a gift last year. We've kept up that relationship with you. We thanked you appropriately. We've stewarded you appropriately. And we've showed you the impact of your gift. And now we go back to you and ask you to help again. It's like any major gift fundraising, it's really no different. As far as the ambassadors, it's really a little bit the same in the sense that you want to go through the same process for last year's ambassadors that you would for major donors. So you have ambassadors that really stretched beyond their comfort zone. They went out, they asked people for money, they weren't necessarily comfortable doing it, and some of them were very, very successful, either got large gifts or got a large quantity of gifts. Those people also need to be thanked. They also need to be appreciated. They also need to be shown, hey, look what you did for the Maaseh. Look what you accomplished. What the statistics show is that when you go back to an ambassador that helped you last year and ask them again this year, not only will they sign up again, they will usually statistically raise anywhere from 30 to 50% more than last year because they know how to do it, they're comfortable with it, and you're better able to coach them. And then, on top of that, and that's why the goals typically can raise from year to year to year, you have new people to go to. You have new ambassadors to recruit. So if it's a combination of going back to your old ambassadors, going through that process to make sure they feel appreciated, and then getting them to raise that 30 to 50% more, and then you're recruiting a new slew of people, you're really going to have a larger pool of ambassadors to work from. And then, as we said before, your goal can go up because the crowdfunding goal is directly connected to the amount of ambassadors that you've recruited. So it's not so much about keeping it fresh. It's more about making sure that they're still connected to the organization. Now, there's also messaging and the theme of the campaign, and there's lots of stuff that can go into that too, and that's something that has to be developed. Some might just kind of do a similar theme each year. Some might just do something different with a new tagline and a new messaging, and that can all be written and explained to donors and communicated. Certainly, if it's a new project that you're raising money for, those are ways you can keep it fresh, but the core yesodos remain the same.
Thank you. Like I said before, we were very successful in terms of dollars. We did miss the dinner social event where parents come, they get together, they schmooze. It's a night out, and we missed that aspect. It's not worth it in terms of the money we're going to lose from doing a dinner. But how would you incorporate a social event with a matching campaign? Maybe give me 1 or 2 or 3 ideas.
And just to repeat the question in case somebody didn't hear. They did the matching campaign, they didn't do the dinner, they didn't have the good feel PR of the dinner, and they're looking to compensate for that in the matching campaign itself.
Okay, so I'll throw out a few ideas. A couple of these we've done in TA, and a couple of them I've seen other Maaseh do very successfully as well. So one idea is instead of take the concept of your dinner, which is where you get that core people in the room, they've given, let's say, $500 a couple, whatever it is, and turn that into an after-campaign celebratory event. We did this at TA very successfully a couple years ago, before pre-COVID. And what we did is we said, listen, in our prior dinners, it cost $500 for a couple to come to the dinner. If you gave $500 to the matching campaign, then 3 weeks later you were invited to an event. It was a much lighter event. It was a social event. We actually brought in Avram Fried and it was a shtickle concert. And we just made a very feel-good event celebrating those donors and had the same impact of the dinner, but without needing to raise money from the dinner with a journal or honorees. We used the campaign to raise the money, and we used the dinner in order to have that camaraderie and that social event. Another idea is if you don't necessarily want to do a full dinner, you could do a donor appreciation event, at least for your major donors. So identify in your organization what you would call a major donor, whether it's a $1,000 donor or $2,500. That happens to be $2,500 for us in TA. We make a special event for that group of people during the year as a donor appreciation event. And so we do bring them in. and we roll out the red carpet, and we do something very nice for them, and they feel appreciated. And for that group, which is frankly the most important group, we're able to do something live. The other thing that might be helpful, and it's really helpful for what we discussed before about recruiting ambassadors. So one thing that we coach is to do, in order to recruit ambassadors, to do what we call a pre-campaign rally event, which means you actually have a live event to bring people into a room and to pitch them on the idea of being an ambassadors. But it's a fun event. So you're inviting people in, you're serving some food, you're showing them a little video, you're getting them pumped about the yeshiva or about the Ma'aseh, about the campaign, and then the ask at that event is, can you sign up and be an ambassador? For our most recent campaign, we actually did 2 live rally events and a Zoom rally event as well, like a virtual rally event. And we got a bunch of people in the room or on the Zoom chat, and we did that pitch. But it was an opportunity, at least the live ones were an opportunity for people to get together to have that little social event in the context of the campaign, where they were schmoozing, they were having a good time. It wasn't exactly like a dinner, but it was the opportunity to get them in a room together, and we felt that it was very helpful.
Thank you.
I want to go to question and answers, but if you can give one
more
last question. Yeah.
Okay, this is an important one. Baruch Hashem, the cause, the charity campaign that we did tripled our donor base. So we have now this new donor base, and we know the big question is how to move forward with this donor base. And the question really is, from a fundraising point of view, the best way to go after this large amount of donors next year is for our fundraising office to contact them, ask them, you gave $100 last year, could you do $180 this year? From a fundraising pitch, that's the best way to do it. However, these donors came in through our parent body, through these links. Now, these parents did not ask, they don't know how to ask for money, and they don't ask for a specific amount of money. They just send the link, could you help? If they send out the link, which might do very well because it's their family and friends, however, they're not asking, you're not telling them, you gave $100 last year, can you up it? So, how do we go about this new donor base for the future?
Okay, great question. So I cannot emphasize enough the importance of the post-campaign data review. When you go through your donors, the donor levels, how you got this donation, and you filter it, you analyze it, you filter it by donation amount, by the ambassador that raised the donation, what you're going to see is you're going to be able to segment those donors. And you're going to see a certain amount of donors gave large gifts. Well, those people might be more connected to the Ma'aseh than the people who gave the smaller gifts. The people who gave the smaller gifts presumably might have given because their cousin or brother or aunt or uncle asked them to give a gift. The one who gave the larger gifts, well, why did they give a larger gift, and do they have capacity to stay on as a donor? Once you analyze the data and kind of figure out where it lies as far as my different sets of donors, I obviously have to then take that set and decide, okay, there's some cultivation potentially to do. So yeah, this work has to start now. I can't wait till next year's campaign to figure out who those people are and whether I have to cultivate them and bring them in as part of my Ma'aseh. Obviously, if it's lower level donors or the ones that are specifically connected to an ambassador that really don't have much shaykhs to the organization, you're going to realize that. You're not going to spend much time with those, and you're going to rely on hopefully recruiting that same ambassador. But very important, make sure that you give that ambassador next year, give them the list of people that they got money from this year, and give it to them on a silver platter. Print for every single ambassador. These are all the people you went to last year. Go back to those same people. Make sure you get all those repeat gifts. That would be a great way to get those gifts again.
Okay, Yasher Koyach. We're going to take some questions from the audience. Yossi has a mic. Somebody wants to... You just can... All right.
Thanks so much. So how do you get people to
Can
come
I
to
ask you
that?
just name and Ma'aseh?
Sure. Aryeh Borsik, Yeshiva Elementary School in Milwaukee.
Okay.
How do you get people to come to that pre-campaign rally? What's the pitch to get them in the door so you can ask them to ask their friends for money?
I guess that's for me.
Yeah.
So there are a couple ways. First of all, you can make it a fun event. You can make it. You could certainly hype up the event with regards to either have some kind of speaker there or just say it's going to be some kind of there's going to be some food and it's a social event, and typically what will happen is people might come and bring their friends. Specifically, if we're talking about a parent body and you make it very parent centric, that we're having an event for parents that, and obviously the expectation is we'd like you to come, we want you to come to this event, people will show up. The other thing that we did pretty successfully is we actually had Balabatim host the events at their homes. And then what we did is we had them help invite people. So they reached out. It was almost like a mini parlor meeting. But instead of asking for money, we were asking them to become ambassadors for the campaign. So we had one particular event at one of the Balabatim's homes, and he invited 40 of his friends, and they showed up, and we served some food, showed a little video, made the pitch. The whole event was a half hour, but everyone had a great time. And I think out of the 40 people who were there, I think we got 38 ambassadors out of the deal, and they were very successful. So different methods, but the idea is if you can make them feel that they're going to be part of something very big, very, very successful, and very important, they'll show up.
Yossi, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that a couple points that might sometimes take into account when they're trying to structure these pre-campaign meetings is that you could either structure it as a full-blown rally where you're bringing everyone down together, or you can also do it as a very targeted, specific meeting that you're specifically scheduling, which if you break it down based on anticipated dollar amounts that you're asking each person to accept on a partnership at a specific level, then I've personally seen with campaigns that we've worked with that if the RayzeIt preps one of the guys in the room, I want you at an $18,000 level, and then after the meeting, he starts with one of the guys. He has the meeting. He has a planted seed in the room. He starts with him. Can we count on you for $18,000? And he gets a yes. Then it's much easier to go around the table and actually position yourself on a much better ground than a general rally where it's very hard for you to get those personal asks on the proper levels.
Okay, next.
Moshe Zuckerberg, Yaakov High School, Toronto. You're all talking about motivating parents. My question is motivating staff members, rabbeim, moros, teachers, who feel like they're not the fundraiser and it's your job.
Okay. Yaakov, you want to go first?
Forget about it.
Anything else to add?
Okay, fine. Listen, it's everyone's laughing because it's really hard, and it's a challenge that we all have. Any of us that run schools know this challenge very, very, very well. That said, if you have regularly have decent staff morale in place already, there are some staff members that will step up to the plate. And what we've done is we haven't really solicited them directly to be ambassadors for the campaign, but we did invite them to the same rally events that we were inviting parents to. And guess what? Some showed up. And the ones that showed up, they're the ones who are motivated. They're the ones who want to be part of this. And many of them decided to be ambassadors and actually raised a lot of money. So there are other things. This year we did something a little different. We tied it into the learning of the Talmidim, and we got some of the Rabbeim involved in that way. So there are some other strategies, but generally it is a challenge. I would just encourage you to have, you can have some expectations, but if you really expect that your campaign is going to be run and be successful because of your staff, I'm not sure that's a great strategy. So.
And if I can chime in here, Leo, what was your experience with your staff?
So my staff was very helpful and willing to do anything we asked them. However, we weren't ready, and we weren't ready to know how much we're going to need from the staff. In the future, I certainly would perhaps, maybe even for that short amount of time, for those 3 months, hire some extra help, because we certainly could use a lot of extra help during the campaign, and we don't know if the current staff has enough time in the day to be of help to the amount that we actually need.
Okay, yes, you want to add something?
The worst that I've seen was a Maisa that was behind on payroll and told the staff that if you raise money, we'll catch you up to date on your paychecks. But with that said, talking about back to Leo's question before about talking about the camaraderie of a dinner and missing that out, there is a huge role that your teachers, rabbeim, and moros and principals can play in this campaign. And that is the RayzeIt engagement. And at the campaign completion celebration, going there and thanking the parents that you thank us for taking care of your child. I'm thanking you for enabling us to do that. I'm thanking you for what you did. And that's the role that they play in this campaign. The role they play in the campaign is not to bring in the money. Your secretary is the one taking care of your data. Whoever else is helping you out, these people are helping helping you with showing the appreciation to the people, and it means a lot when it comes from a Rebbe or a Manal.
Many meisters don't want to engage their staff for this. They don't want their staff involved in the fundraising. They want to kind of keep it separate. So next question. I don't know.
Chaim Shimon Neuberger, Monsey, New York, Bas Mikra. So I ran 2 of these campaigns. So I'm not asking a question. Just wanted to give my opinion. I have those. One time we actually told the staff that they have to show up to the call center. They did, because it was instead of the dinner, so this was their time to give their hour and a half at the call center without making. We didn't ask them to make any phone calls, and they did not produce very much. The second time, we just encouraged that they show up, again, without ever asking them to produce, and they were so blown away by the call center that they produced off the charts. There's a colleague of mine sitting behind me that had a similar experience in Toronto as well, that just give them the opportunity. Don't be mechayev. Don't treat them like regular parents, especially if they're parents. Don't treat them like regular parents, and just give them that opportunity and show them that they're also part of the team. They'll see what's going on, and they will produce.
Okay, shkoyach. We're going to take one more question/opinion.
Shmuel Myers from Montessori Torah Academy in Louisville. Question for you: how do you?
Anybody know where Louisville is? I'm sorry.
Louisville, Kentucky. How do you motivate the ambassador, the raisers or ambassadors, whichever one of you I'm talking to? How do you motivate them to go beyond their comfort zone, both in terms of who they ask and how much they ask?
Yeah, Yossi, you want to go?
The answer is that you are making an ask from them, and that's something that you should be transparent about, and you should be honest about it. But what I could tell you is that depending on the organization, it varies. From the crowdfunding segments of a campaign, the average raiser is able to bring in 12 to 15 transactions on average, averaging between $130 and $180 on average. And if you go to a parent and you tell a parent, and watch my words on this, I don't need you to go ahead and make a solicitation and fundraise for me. What I want you to do is, I want you to send your link out and say, my son's yeshiva is running a campaign. As a parent of the organization, they asked me to take a goal of $2,500. Can I send you my link? I didn't ask you for money. Can I send you my link? It's a subtle ask. You're going out of your comfort zone. But if you ask anyone, do you have 15 friends that you could get a transaction from? Most people will tell you that the answer is yes. And back to what I was saying about the parent that I met by Gunmeir Senzer campaign completion, who told me, he's like, who am I? What did I do for the campaign? The answer is that those 15 donations that you're going to bring in, that's what makes the campaign successful. And when people understand that they're a partner and what they could accomplish, that's when they get involved.
It's extremely important for the Mossad to make the parents and the ambassadors, whoever they are, whether they're parents, alumni, donors, etc., to help them understand that they can do this. And that involves the Mossad providing them with the proper tools to be able to go out there and make the ask. That would involve making sure they have scripts, making sure they understand the theme of the campaign, making sure that they have images they can send out, whatever the campaign videos that they can send out, giving them all of the tools that they need to do the job. Once they have the tools that they need to do the job, and then during the course of the campaign, they have the proper follow-up, they have accountability. That's another part that's very, very important in terms of making sure that during the campaign, there's follow-up with the ambassadors, that there's someone reaching out mid-campaign to the ambassadors, someone following their progress and making sure the ones that are doing well to be mekazik them more, adjust their goals if necessary. All of this is important, and it's up to the Mossad to really prepare properly to have all the tools necessary to make the ambassadors successful. And when they do that, and when they show the ambassadors that you can be successful, many times ambassadors who thought in a million years there's no way I can do this, see wild success and are extremely pleased with how they did.
Shekayach. I just want to make one note over here. We obviously have two competing vendors, let's call it, that operate in the same space for this campaign. They are different, meaning they are different vendors, but they have different approaches, different methodology. The cause match, which Yaakov represents, is very coaching based, is very, I don't know if I should call it bottom up or building the campaigns. RayzeIt starts with a platform and then in swoops Yossi and guides you through the whole thing. You can speak to them about their personal approaches and what works for you. But I really want to compliment both the fact that they're sitting up here on stage. There were numerous meetings that happened. Thank you, Yitzchak Kraus, again, for helping make those meetings happen that got us to this point. I also want to reiterate what we had at the conference a couple years ago. We had a session where myself with Yitzchak Kraus kind of presented the two tales of two meisters, a successful campaign and an alleged failed campaign, and side by side, what were the differences between the two campaigns. It's a great recording that has a lot to offer. But to reiterate, if you don't have everybody on board, and you don't start that energy from the ground up, you're not going to get there. If you do, you will go beyond what you think there is. If you do get that energy going, the collective ichud, the 1 + 1 is not 2. It really, really plays out with this campaign. So Agresin Shekayach for sitting up here, and Agresin Shekayach to Yitzchak for everything that you did for today, but especially for this specific session. We're going to daven mincha in this room. There are to-go suppers across the hall. You can sit down as well. We're going to daven mincha here. Chiyuv, is there a chiyuv that's davening?